So here we are. Get the saddest of the news out of the way first. Chadwick Boseman. Man. 2020 has just been kicking my ass. It's been kicking the world's ass. It's been kicking your ass. Every single time one of these things happen, I think to myself, this is the last person I would have thought it would have happened to. And then it happens to someone else that I would have thought, this is the last person I would have thought that this would happen to. Huge rest in peace and condolences to Chadwick Boseman's family. Just the work ethic that this man had, just the drive, the how inspired he must have been to just keep going in spite of what he was fighting, in spite of what he was battling. And no one knew, you know what I mean? People were going and making these jokes about him because he seemed visibly different. You know, there was a change in his physique, there was a change in his tone, it seemed a bit. Every now and again when he would be asked to do gestures from the movie Black Panther, it would seem as though his attitude wasn't as fully into it. And I took note of those things, not because I was like, oh, he seems like he's sick of this shit, but because it felt like there was a noticeable change, but it never made me say, oh, you know, it looks like he's on drugs, or it looks like he's sick of y'all, or it looks like this. I didn't think about it like that because I felt like this looks like it's indicative of something else. This is the last thing that I would have thought of, but it just made me sad seeing him like that, even when I didn't know anything was wrong. It made me sad seeing him like that because this is one of the few people like from Hollywood, one of the few people that are like in the industry, in the business of movie making and acting and things like that, where I looked at and I was like, wow, like this dude seems like he's got a really genuine attitude. Like I rarely watch, you know, actors' interviews or whatnot, but he was one that was like, man, this dude seems just like really natural, like really just organic, really wholesome. I remember him talking about the impact that Black Panther would have on young black children and seeing, you know, a piece of them portrayed on the big screen, and how important that stuff was, how important it is for people to see themselves in a powerful setting, in a powerful point of view, not from the perspective of like a slave, not from the perspective of someone who's battling drug addiction, not from the perspective of someone who's always in the street, but from a perspective of like royalty, seeing yourself that way, and how important and how impactful it can be to a young kid that's never seen themselves portrayed that way. Well, I could tell even when I was watching the movie for the first time that it meant a lot to the cast, but especially the main actor. Not only that, but just how almost divine it would feel every now and again when I would see his face on the big screen and I would see him portraying an older black figure, a black figure that was notable, a black figure that people had respected for a specific talent or specific skill. He seemed to portray those characters very accurately, to the point where it almost felt like they were coming alive in him through his acting. But it was him specifically that portrayed those characters and those people so well. So it made sense that people felt like T'Challa was a real person. It just makes the belief in this character a little bit stronger. I don't know exactly what it would have been, but I know Chadwick Boseman had something driving him so far that something like colon cancer didn't get in the way of what his purpose was. And I don't know exactly what that purpose was. Only he would know that. But he must have had such strong faith that he has to do this thing that I won't let anyone outside of my very close circle, my personal family, know that I'm battling this. Seeing him on the screen or just seeing him in an interview was just inspiring. It was motivating, and it was hopeful. It gave me a lot of hope just seeing this dude anywhere. On to brighter news. There is the new Jaden Smith album. When I say brighter, I mean the aesthetic of this album is completely sunshiny and completely devoid of any type of depth, to the point where everything is just so clearly on the surface, and the sun's light is shining on everything so brightly that there could not be any dark moments here. Smith dropped, what was it, the Cool Tapes Volume 3, and I don't know if artist regression is a thing, but it definitely feels like that on this project. I went into this completely open-minded, ready to completely let myself be taken by this Jaden Smith aesthetic. When I walked into the record, 17 minutes in, I turned it off and didn't finish it until the next day. It was just devoid of any personality. And for a person like Jaden Smith, who has not only hailed himself as an icon, but has the production value and the setup to where he could make damn near anything. You have the resources to make an incredible body of work, something beautiful, something that stands out. But you completely fade into the background of so many of these songs, even though the production value for a lot of these songs is just simple indie pop. If there's any hip hop on this record, it's nothing futuristic, it's nothing forward thinking. Jaden Smith is one of the most ambitious people in mainstream hip hop and mainstream music in general, but those ambitions are hard to realize when you see how emulative he is. Every album, it just feels like there's somebody else that he's emulating, whether it was Kanye on Sire, whether it was Tyler and people like Brockhampton, people like Rory. When he tries to rap on this record, I feel some hints of Mac Miller, but Mac Miller had at least the emotional depth or awareness of himself to have a topic to rap about from start to finish, or get you emotionally invested in what he was saying, at least to some extent. It's hard to look at Jaden Smith as really doing or having experienced anything when the extent of what he talks about on this record go about as far as his front porch. You look into the writing of this album and you see how much of it mutes any personality that's likable. The extent of the writing on this album is pretty much about his love and about, you know, other people being mad on Reddit while he gets to buy a Tesla. And it's just like, in these times, who's really even relating to a line like that? I played Sunburnt and then I played Deep End and I forgot both tracks were playing. I shit you not. The tracks don't really feel finished. Most of them don't attempt to build into anything greater than the start of what they are. Would have been nothing wrong with Jaden Smith releasing like a dream pop album or a folk record if his voice had the training and enough variation to carry him through a project where majority of the instrumentals are so minimalist. But you can't hide how little you actually contribute to a record when the production is basically a bunch of indie pop. Maybe you could mask a little bit in a huge R&B aesthetic, or maybe you could mask a bit of you know, how vapid some of the rapping was that you had was on Sire by the grand production on a lot of the tracks. But here, I don't know, it really does feel like artist regression. And last but not least for this video, we got an artist named redveil. redveil has been making music for a minute from what I know, but he dropped a project a couple of days ago titled Niagara. Now, I was going to listen to this when it first dropped and when people were first telling me about it, because people were already telling me about it, so I was going to listen to it eventually. That want to listen to this project was expedited by random controversy, I guess, that was involving Fantano. Getting to Fantano in a second, I do have to acknowledge, this album, being from a dude who's 16 years old, to me, is a special thing. And when I say special, I mean how important it is to encourage young voices to continue with a creative outlet, especially something that they're clearly good at, especially something like music. While music like this can certainly be criticized, I think it's definitely important to encourage the continuation of art coming from people like this, especially when, like I said, the foundation of what he's doing, to me, just stems from a guy who's got a lot of talent. First thing I need to acknowledge about redveil is there is a lot of the music on Niagara that is reminiscent Earl Sweatshirt, that is reminiscent Mavi, that may be reminiscent Mike. To that I say, none of these figures or people own abstract hip hop. None of them own dusty soul samples that are used and looped constantly. I think that aesthetic is nice in general. I don't really mind who raps on it, whether it's Earl, whether it's Mavi, whether it's Mike, whether it's redveil. I think adding and pushing soul into hip-hop music is exactly what we need to keep doing, so it doesn't become this electronically trap-produced, devoid of soul wasteland, but that's just my opinion. Referring to the tone of his voice, though, that is also reminiscent Earl Sweatshirt a bit, in my opinion. I think a way to fix that is just to add more variation to your flow. Alter your octaves and alter your tones and your vocal inflections more often, and that'll go away with time. It'll also add a little bit more spice to some of these tracks and may encourage further instrumental variation. All these things were little critiques of mine throughout listening to the music, but for the most part, the foundation of the record was he's got talent. He can rap. He can improve on these things that'll make the project great in the future, but for right now, I don't see anything wrong with this. Especially when I heard that flip of that Alicia Keys "You Don't Know My Name" sample on Grass with Cameron Bolden, I think it was. That let me know. That let me know this dude was nasty. He nasty. The loop of the piano keys halfway through. And I know the original sample is something from the main ingredient, but me looking at this project, I just saw, like I said, massive potential. Topically, I felt myself running into a bit of filler on this album, at least in terms of what I felt I cared most about. I think redveil has to remember that there aren't too many people that are new that are listening to this project that are going to know exactly who he is. So I think it's easier for guys like him, at least for the time being, to make music that's a little bit more topical, a little bit more external, so that they themselves have a little bit more to relate to. And a lot of the lyrics on the record just felt like, diary entries, which is fine. But like I said, for people that don't know who he is, it may be difficult to hold their attention or hold their interest with stuff like that. So making music that's a little bit more topically focused is probably easier to get people into. But yeah, man, I definitely recommend y'all listen to it. I definitely recommend, you try it, you check it out, because I really see nothing too I really don't see anything wrong there. Like, the base level of talent for this dude, and him being 16 is the most impressive thing. As for how people feel about Fantano, I'll say, like I said, I'm not mad or angry with Fantano in any way. But for the people out there that are like vehemently defending Fantano as if he's not a grown man that can handle or be criticized, I would like to say that I don't believe that if redveil was asking for his music to be listened to or reviewed or looked at, he was asking with the intention of, oh, listen to my music because it's a masterpiece. Oh, listen to my music because I'm the next big thing. If anything, I believe if he was asking for it to be listened to, it was from the perspective of, help me improve. Like, I know that my music isn't perfect. I know that there are things that I could work on and improve on. I don't need you to kind of come on and, kind of shit on me, basically. I kind of just need you to steer me in the right direction, because I know you have a musical knowledge. You've been in here for a long time. Like, I get it. If that's what was going on, I understand that being a thing. And if you don't fuck with it, that's fine. But the age thing is what got to me, only because he is talented. There's not too many examples of a dude being this talented this young. That's what I'm saying. So I can only imagine the future. But yeah, that's all I got. Redveil with Niagara, good project. Definitely worthy of an honorable mention. And that's pretty much all I got for this one. Y'all stay safe. Y'all stay in high spirits. There's a lot going on. So I'm hoping everyone is paying attention to their mental and doing things that you truly enjoy, feeding those things that give you the most happiness right now. And yeah, that's all I got. I almost said, in the name of Jesus, amen. I guess we can end it there.